progress.
Oh, okay. Well, just
Do you have quotes yet?
no one's really been able to do it. So we can do it without some like a contract, but the city said that they could pour the cement.
Oh, the city would do it?
Cement, but we would have to excavate the tube and also lay down the frame, like the wood blocks.
Amazing reproduction.
Okay, we're just waiting for people to sign in and get some food and sit down. We've got a lot on our agenda today, so in just a minute, we'll have our chair, Brian Taylor, start the meeting.
I do that. Can I do that too? Hi. Welcome to Sunset. Well, we got an exciting audience tonight. So apparently we're going to take care of some information, an informational study that was done, which is a road study that was conducted. We're going to be doing some planning items, and after that, then we'll talk about elections after the city employees have their opportunity to share with us what has been happening in Provo and what they've been working on in our area. So could we have, I think it's Vern? You're on. Appreciate it.
I'll stand off to the side this time. This is great to be able to see such participation tonight. So my name is Vern Keeslar. I'm in the Provo City Engineering Division, and we've been asked to take a look at speed on 2050 West. So we did this little traffic study, and oh, I'm sorry. Next slide, please. This will show the kind of our study area. We really went from just south of the gas station there, all along 2050 West, just short of the 6 South. We didn't want to pick up those intersections there. And we took a look at, that's the study area. So if we go to the next slide, first thing we do is take a look at crashes. We look at crashes for the last 3 years in urbanized areas. And in rural areas, we look at 5 years. And so we looked at the 3 years. There was one crash in 2022. It involved distracted driving. There were no injuries. It involved a parked vehicle. So if someone got distracted, hit a parked vehicle. It was on dry roadway surface condition. The weather condition was cloudy, and but it happened during daylight. So let's go to the map and we'll show you where that accident occurred. You can see the little yellow dot right there. So that's where it happened at. And so that's one of the things we look at. We look at crash data, and there wasn't a significant amount of crash data reported. Every once in a while, I hear people say, oh yeah, but there's crashes there all the time. They just don't report it. My message to you is please report it. If there's a crash in front of your house or at your intersection, call the police. It gets reported that way. It helps, believe me. Okay, let's go to the next slide. So here's my definitions. Now, I have to have this slide up every time, and sometimes I go through it too fast, so I'm not even going to say anything. I'm just going to let you read it. We talk about average speed, 85th percentile, and then what volume is, which is the total number of vehicles that pass a certain spot. So I'll just give you about 10 more seconds to read that before we go on to the next slide and look at some of the data. Yes, Counselor Bogdan. 2050 is a collector in this area. North of Center Street, it's an arterial. If I remember correctly, I should have brought my map with me. On arterial roads, we usually sign those about 35, but Geneva Road is a state road, so they sign it. Most of the speeds in Provo are 25. I don't think I have one road greater than 35 that's under our jurisdiction. There are some state roads that are higher speeds, but I think 35 is our maximum speed at Provo City that I can think of right off the bat. I take that back. I think Lakeview Parkway is a bigger road, a newer facility. It's 45. Yeah, this part is 25 miles an hour. No, not at all. It means 85% of the vehicles that were observed were going at that speed or lower. So I'm get to show you what that is. Next slide. No, not at all. Here's where we put our monitoring location. We put it right there. It's the red dot. And coincidentally, I think I put it right in front of the person who home that complained. So I put that right there and was able to catch some data. So let's go and look at the data on that. So we did it back in September. We did a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We did it for a total of 73 hours. The posted speed limit is 25 miles an hour. Our northbound average speed was 25 miles an hour. The 85th percentile, which means 85% of the cars that travel past that point were doing 29 miles an hour or lower. The southbound average speed was a little bit lower. It was 20 miles per hour, with the 85th percentile going 22 miles an hour. So I'm starting to see some patterns across the city with northbound and southbound and eastbound and westbound speeds. And they're just kind of interesting for me to note, probably very boring for you. Okay, overall speed was 22 miles an hour. The overall 85th percentile, if you average both northbound and southbound, was 27 miles an hour. So we're a couple miles over the posted speed. What alarmed me was we had two, which is not awful, but we had two that were going over 50 miles an hour somewhere along there. I don't know who, what, why, but they were. And that's in the northbound direction. The southbound direction, we had a very good cohort at 26 to 30 miles an hour, and that's what most people are traveling, or at least we had, that was the highest number of cohort. 136 people traveled in that speed category. Yes, Brian.
Without a total, we don't understand what the volume to incident is. So
yeah,
what's your volume?
It's on this slide right here. Okay. So as we move to this slide, you see our total volume of northbound vehicles for the 73 hours were over 4,600. It's about 63 vehicles per hour, or daily 1,500 vehicles plus. Southbound, a little higher. You're averaging about or a little bit lower. You're not quite at 4,000 vehicles over the 73 hours. So 55 vehicles per hour or 1,300 daily. So that kind of gives you, but the average is 28, 26. So it's a collector street, and that's pretty low for a collector volume roadway. Okay, so we have functional classification systems with our roadway. Functional class would kind of be like a local street, which carries lots of access, but low speeds. And then we move on to collector streets, fewer access, a little higher speed sometimes. Arterial streets, low access, high speeds, and then the interstate system, which is no access and really, really high speeds, right? So that kind of gives you an idea of the functional class. Let's go to the next slide. So in summary, we had one total crash reported. We had an overall speed of about 22 miles an hour. The 85th percentile was 27 total vehicles there, but the average is about 2,800 vehicles a day on that road, less than 3,000. So what I wanted to make sure was that we can go to the final slide was the speed limits were pretty good. I just wanted to make sure that I had 4 speed limit signs. One, as soon as you turn onto it going southbound, and one as soon as you turn onto it going northbound, and then 2 in between. And we have all 4 of those speed limit signs in place. One more slide, I think, and that should do it. Questions about 2050 West? Yes, Councilmember Bogdan. Oh, yeah, we need a mic. Yeah, forgot about the mic.
All right, woke it up.
All right, I'm not gonna do any kind of rap or anything. Just so that they're aware, because on the west side, 3,000 trips per day is a lot. But you wouldn't actually widen that road to a 5-lane highway until it's 9,000, 12,000.
3, yeah, 3. It would be probably in closer range to 12 to 16, 12 to 15,000 before you would ever need to widen that road. 3,000 is nice and low for a collector street.
That's when I wanted to
Plenty of
figure.
capacity.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
a collector, yeah. And a collector, you're gonna see, like you said, a little bit higher speeds and more traffic volume. I think that's kind of a confusion for a lot of the residents is they don't understand what the classifications mean. And if you see a higher speed on a collector road or an arterial road, that's more normal than it is on something in your residential roads. So thanks, Vern.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Any other questions? I know Rachel is going to ask on Zoom to see if
I did. Oh, go ahead. I did have a question for your speed limit signs. I count for at least 3 of those per day, or within your study period. Just really curious. Is it possible to when you say you have 2 limit signs, I believe you need 3, only for the fact that because of the terrain from on southbound, there's a transition period. It feels like you're in a off Geneva, still doing 35 until you transition into the neighborhood after the wide field on the west side headed south. If you actually had 2 signs, one upon entering onto that road right off of Center Street, and then one to remind people to slow down as they're entering into the neighborhood, I think you would get a lot of applaud from the neighbors in that area. At least my experience.
And that's what I have, Brian. I have 1 on each end and then 2 in the middle. So that's a total of 4 signs. So right after that field,
Yeah.
there's an oversized speed limit sign.
Okay. Okay.
Not sure how the oversized speed limit sign got there. I generally don't put them that large, so I know it was way before me.
Definitely needed, especially coming off of Geneva or
Yeah.
coming off Center. So,
Yeah.
okay.
Sure. Who had the question?
So the question is once the sports fields open, what's the anticipated trips per day on 2050?
On which road?
2050, the same one you're talking about. Do you anticipate once the sports fields open and once the sports park opens that there'll be more traffic on 2050?
It doesn't connect, so it's going to be 2470 would be the west road. So it's 4 blocks to 5 blocks
2740 or something.
west of this location. There'll be more traffic on. You could turn off of 600 South and work your way back. I haven't done any travel demand modeling to determine that. There is. And they may, because they may want to get back to where there's businesses and food and gas and all that fun stuff. They may. Yeah.
As well as completion on 2050, will the designation change from collector to arterial when you complete from 6 South to the Parkway?
That's a really good question. I think we have it designated as a collector all the way down to Lakeview Parkway. Again, I should have brought my map with me.
And the reasoning behind that, I mean, you've got, that is a thoroughfare from Parkway to Geneva.
Yeah.
And so I would hope that headed south, at least off of 6 South, that would be designated as arterial and the width of it be considered arterial.
Yeah, I'll remember to bring my my map with me next time. Just when I think I got most of the roads down, I don't. I want to speak with confidence, right? And so I better have my cheat sheet with me.
Very good.
Thank you.
Are there any of the like where it shows your speed signs on 6 South currently?
On 5th West, I do.
Okay.
I'm sorry, no, none on 6 South, but we do have 2 on 500 West. Yeah.
With the increase, like as the sports park gets in and with anticipated increased flow of traffic there, what is the avenue to get one of those signs?
If it's determined where our speed is getting crazy, this is not crazy at all. This is wonderful. Okay. If it gets crazy where we're not getting compliance, that would be a great time to remind drivers. And we could see where they're doing the highest speed because it is a pretty straight road, right? And so when I drove it the other day, I was going down there and it's a straight, you can see all the way down. And so people may concentrate on where they're going instead of the speed limit. So therefore, we'll want to identify where the speeding is occurring, if it is occurring, and then that's where we could place the your speed sign. And I believe that your speed sign is eligible for.
Yes, I was just about to say, matching grant. Yeah, District 2 just did some speed signs. They cost about $3,500. So with the increase in matching grant funds, you can now get 2. If that's something your district is interested in purchasing.
1 northbound and 1 southbound, right?
Six South is not a residential road. 6 South is a collector road minimum. So keep that in mind.
Could we schedule another study once the park has been completed? Because the reason I asked that is like they did a traffic study on 1600 West between 6 South and 1050. And they did it not during softball season, which is completely pointless because the volume that occurs there during softball season and the speeds encountered along that stretch are ridiculous. To do this in the winter or prior to, there's going to be a huge change and influx once the park is open.
Yeah, I think we'll give a full year of traffic patterns to get established before we redo a speed study, but I'm always open to doing traffic studies and looking at crash data and speed to improve the quality of life on our roads. That's what we want. We want safety. We want people to obey the speed. So you bet. The answer is yes.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Rachel, did you have a question?
No, we don't have any questions on Zoom,
Zoom.
but we do need to go
Right.
on to our next.
So it's time for Nancy, or the,
John.
John
I took
Bunderson.
up, John, I took up at least 7 minutes of your time.
Thanks, Vern. Grab the pointer. Is there a play button on there, Rachel? It's okay if there's not. Thank you for having both Riley Snelson and myself, John Bunderson, from the Parks and Recreation Department to talk about some of the park improvements that are occurring here on West Side Provo. Let's go next slide. I wanted to start and first talk about a major improvement that's happening up at Rock Canyon Trailhead. There's 2 large projects happening there. The first one is from Public Works for their aquifer storage and recharge project, where they are laying a pipeline all the way from the Provo River up through the trailhead to the mouth of the canyon. And those waters will be released and flowing down in towards the trailhead, creating more natural water effects for visitors to the park area there. So that's one project. The second project from Parks and Recreation is improving the parking lot and trailhead area up there to accommodate more off-street parking. I don't know if you've been up there on a nice day, but the streets are lined with vehicles of visitors to Rock Canyon. It's an amazing amenity, and we're trying to preserve that by creating more off-street parking, and also talking with UTA to get transit options to come up to that area for those that want to use public transit. So things are well underway. Go to the next slide, show you the master plan for the improvements that are happening up there. This is the trailhead. Eventually we'll add a roundabout. We're closing one of the trails going up in. That was a request from the National Park Service. But we are creating 3 new interpretive trail loops where you'll explore the geology, the animal life, and plant life that can be found up in Rock Canyon. And there'll be a nice interpretive center with more informational panels as you come in, new amphitheater area, and then a little tiny rock climbing area where beginners can practice some climbing, and there's a softball area underneath it. So we're really excited about those improvements that are coming to everybody in Provo City who loves coming to this area. Let's go next slide, Rachel. So one of the major developments in Westside Provo is the Delta Gateway Park. It's located off of Lakeshore Drive, right by the Provo River. And this project is in conjunction with the improvements to the Delta project that is west of Lakeview Parkway. But this particular park will be a connector to all the trails in that part of Provo City. So we'll connect to both the new Provo River Trail sections going out to the Delta and the old Provo River Trail sections that follow along the former river channel going towards the state park, as well as everything going upriver that exists right now. There's a list of the amenities that will be added, and you can go next slide and we can see that master plan. Oh, yeah, that's the Bureau of Reclamation doing their work there. Yeah, question?
Yeah, I just had a question about when you rerouted the river, why there was no like flow in the old river channel, because the water just seems that it's getting really, really gross, and it's like breeding mosquitoes and things, and it's hurt Class Rope's course business, because it is, I mean, like, yeah, it's not very inviting.
That is a great question. Unfortunately, Parks and Recreation had no input into that mechanism. So the diversion structure that's been built is regulated by the Bureau of Reclamation and the Mitigation Commission, who is developing the Delta project for the fish habitat for the June sucker. And that is all outside of Provo City's input, and has been entirely on them. So they regulate the flows in the old channel. I know they built a dam down by the state park to help keep water levels up, but it didn't improve the flow rates coming in. And so I would suggest to reach out to them. They do have a website. If you do June Sucker or Utah Lake Mitigation Commission search, that should bring up their information and contact. Yes.
Thank you.
And the legislative bills for these projects were signed back in the 90s. So these projects have been a long time in the planning. The park project was a part of that legislation. It just really come into what the design we have today in just the last few years. But our involvement is really contained to what you see here in the master plan with the trail system and the park improvements. Yes.
We understand it's a federal project. We're wondering if Provo City can play a role in giving feedback to the federal government and saying what you're doing is creating a mosquito problem, and to just be that source of communication to represent the citizens locally.
That's a great question. We'll have to work with administration on how that's formulated, because the properties that we maintain, like the Provo River Trail, even down that section, is county. It's not city property. So it makes it difficult for us to have that input on there. So let's see what we can do with other departments and get back to on that. Did you happen to capture that, Rachel, to make sure we get feedback to Arian and Becky?
I did ask about that a long time ago, probably 6 months ago. And I was told, even by the city, that it has to go. We can't tell another government entity what they can and cannot do with their property, right? We're the low of the totem pole. And so all of that has to be done through the residents getting together, just like you would come to the city council. You guys all have that right to go to them and do the same thing and just tell them, hey, we are concerned about this. This affects our people. This affects our property. This is where we need to go. Because like I said, we don't have the right to tell them what they can and cannot do. So it just has to go forward that way.
And some of it isn't property rights, it's water rights, and who owns those water rights to divert. So, and those aren't Provo City's water rights. So thank you, Becky.
Where do they, like, I guess I'm just a little bit confused about like the plan for that area. Like if they're eventually thinking that the water will drain, do you know if the water will, if they're like trying to drain it, or if
No,
they just want a stagnant long pond?
No, they are creating a fishery there. So they are introducing aerification systems to introduce air to keep the water aerified to reduce the stagnation. I don't know what point they'll get to, but they are making attempts to do that. They are doing some other improvements for small boat craft launch areas at the trailheads that are down there maintained by the county. So they are making some improvements, and some of that information is on their website, but I do know they can share a PowerPoint slide deck with you about those improvements that they're planning on making there.
June sucker recovery.
Thanks, Andrew. Okay, let's go next slide. We've got more projects to cover here in West Provo.
Do you have an estimated completion date for the Delta project?
The park should be completed in spring 2025. So another project is West Park. I'm not sure I came to the district. This was a year ago. I came to meet with the neighborhood there, and we had planned on implementing these improvements this last year, but it got postponed to this calendar year. But we are actively moving forward with irrigation improvements, adding a swing set, and improving the basketball courts there at West Park. So that's another project we have here in West Provo. And next slide. A very exciting project that we have coming up at Fort Utah is it's time to replace the skate park. And so as part of that, we are in the planning process of bringing on a consultant for an all-wheels park here in Provo that will include skate, BMX, pump track components, and a jump line for our youth. And this will be situated likely right along the Provo River Trail in the Fort Utah Greenway. So that's the north side of the Fort Utah Park area. We're also going to be doing some parking lot improvements when we have the Little League games occurring. There's a lot of on-street parking on Geneva, so we're trying to bring as much as we can to on-street parking within the park. We think we can add at least one more row of stalls in there with very little augmentation. So again, we have a consultant coming on to help us get that design. I'll have more for you on that maybe the next time we visit, but just wanted to let you know that's in the process. Just get started sometime this summer or next fall.
Sorry, we've got a question from Matt Peterson. Matt, do you want to go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yeah, it looks like the pump track's actually already there. But I'm not sure if this is just a temporary setup or something. There's like some fairly poorly poured asphalt with like footprints and crumbling chunks of asphalt. It looks like they've just been assembling over the last couple days. And we just had some concerns from the neighbors that it looks kind of out of place and roughshod. So is there going to be a more comprehensive plan for that area? Is this the final location of the pump track? What else can you tell us about what's happening right now?
Great point. So what's shown up on the screen here is what's called a modular pump track. This is a fabricated pump track that has a couple pumps and turns, and it is a temporary structure as we get into the removal of the skate park, that this will be an element that youth can still use as we develop the all wheels park. So this is not the permanent structure. This is a temporary, so we can maintain a level of service for our youth in the area. With regards to the base, the asphalt is what's called mill tailings, which is a crushed asphalt. It's a recycled asphalt product that is also just designed as part of the temporary use here to give some stability from the moisture that we've been seeing, and something that can be used through this next season until the all wheels park is fully developed. We anticipate sometime next year.
Great, thanks.
Will the playground be in the same location that it is right now?
I don't know. So as we develop a plan, we will be replacing the current playground and the current restrooms, and we're going to have that as part of the overall comprehensive plan that's being developed.
Okay, I'm asking because I love the new baseball setup. Everything looks really great. Where the playground is right now, the way the fence is, you can't see through the fence to the playground. And as a parent, I've always thought that was silly, because if I'm watching a game and my kids go play, then the playground is blocked. So that's my feedback. If there's a better location or a different option, I would move it.
Okay, thank you.
So I don't know if you do this for all parks, but I do know when we did the new Lakewood Park, Becky got a bunch of us to come and give our opinion on like which park design we liked and everything. Is that something that you do for every single park, or okay? So that would be something that at that point they could come and give their input for.
Yes. Yeah, we're just at that point, we're bringing on a consultant to get a general layout for gathering of those opinions right after.
Okay.
So yeah, we're nearing that point. We're just not quite there yet.
Okay, awesome. Thanks.
Okay, with that, I'm going to hand the mic over to Riley Snelson.
Thank you. I'm the project manager alongside John Bunderson. I'm over the Epic Sports Park. We just kind of wanted to give you guys an update where we're at looking at completion of the north phase. So right now, as of fall this year, we're looking at completion of this north section right here. That will include 15 full-size soccer fields, sports fields, a maintenance restroom combo building right here, a central plaza restroom kind of made for gathering, on a center point for the teams coming in. We are putting in two very large playgrounds, one right here on the south, one right here on the north. So those will be going in this spring. Oh, okay. Just kind of FYI, we have a perimeter walking trail all the way around and the perimeter walking trails in the middle. That's a total of close to about 3 miles of walking trail that will be open to the public 24/7. So we're trying to make this multi-use as best as we can, along with the sports facility. We'll have 4 full parking lots completed, along with over 500 trees and shrubs. So we're anticipating sod going in the next couple months, starting here, and open to play this fall. So any questions on that? That's pretty brief, but
I did have a question. Something. That's better. Hey, just really quick question. I know parking is premium when it comes to a sports park like this.
yes.
Was anything considered or deemed as designated for food trucks? As a parent that takes kids to sporting events, I could only imagine that would be a beehive of activity for food trucks to have a designated area to instead of in the parking lot or in other locations. So
That's a great question. We've actually spent a lot of time on that. We've got some electrical stubs for them to plug in, possibly around the center plaza area. We've got some other, it'll be kind of in the parking lot, but we have had a lot of consideration of food trucks and some electrical stubs to make that a possibility.
And has the Park and Recs department considered food truck scheduling
Yes.
for those locations?
Yes, the manager over this and our sports manager will end up scheduling that and coordinating that along with the events. So yes, food trucks have been top of our list through our discussion for the last couple of years. So
Great. Thank you. That would alleviate or mitigate a little bit of the heavy traffic in the areas that we were talking about regarding people rushing back to someplace to grab something to eat, only to rush back and miss, the first quarter of their child's sporting event. Food trucks, I think, would be critical in mitigating traffic anomalies.
yeah, we kind of felt the same. It's kind of the new wave. So that has been something that's been at the forefront of our discussions for a couple of years.
So I'm a mom of 2 distance runners. Just curious if the park will allow or has any intention of maybe catering to cross-country events for high schools or the state or anything like that. Is that an option?
I think it is. I mean, it's going to be down to the programming of our sports programmer. I mean, we definitely have the trails around. The quality of the turf is very concerning here. We're really trying to protect the quality of the turf, but we want it multi-use. So yes, to answer your question, we're looking at frisbee, lacrosse, soccer, cross country. So yes.
Okay, cool.
My house is right there and I love the access and the trails. That makes me very happy. You said 24/7. I'm a little nervous about lights. Does that mean 24/7 lights on the fields and around the trails?
The fields will not be 24/7, but we have security lightings all the way through all of the parking lots and street lighting going down the roads to try to secure. Budget wise, it's not economical to light all of that, but we do have lighting in all of the parking lots and all of the streets.
And for the foreseeable future, the ball fields will not be lit.
We often get complaints about footprinters, right? How is this going to be as far as the magnitude of footprinters? It's not going to be as bright, or it's going to be brighter. I think that's what they're looking at.
No field lighting.
It should be
At the regional
substantially
sports
less.
park.
Just parking lot safety lighting.
At this point, there's no field lighting. Yes, there's a fence, but it's on the street on the park side. I don't understand.
You built a project and you have a road and there's the next property owner and there's no fence, nothing to keep your public off of the private property owners.
Is there an existing fence?
No.
There's no barbed wire fence?
So what we've committed to all of the property owners on basically all sides is like a barbed wire field fence, just to make sure we have some sort of barrier. We don't have budget to do full blown chain link fence along everybody's side. But as far as a field fence, barbed wire type fence, we will do something along those lines. What's that? Sorry, I couldn't. I don't know that before opening. Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's not just to be clear, we're not talking 6-foot chain link high fence. We're talking, 3-foot, 3-4 strand barbed wire fence, just to try to have some physical barrier of a property line. That one's kind of out
Are
of.
you talking to him about that?
Talk to me, but they've never got back to me.
Okay, I'll make sure he gets back.
I will follow up with the surveyor and the property people. That's not really mine and John's area per se, but I will make sure that somebody gets a hold of you tomorrow or Monday. We can at least follow up and make sure that somebody is reaching out to you with the property issues. So we can answer. I mean, that's not necessarily our job, but we can follow up on that. So any other questions on the Epic? Okay, next slide. This isn't necessarily a West Provo, your neighborhood, but we wanted to touch on the dog park issue that I think everybody's aware of in the city. We just wanted to give a brief kind of overview of where we're at with that. Currently, we have one dog park operated at Bicentennial Park. We are looking very diligently at other spots. We've got a community group that we're working with as far as citizens, like you guys had mentioned, to try to find other locations and come up with solutions to the dog park issue. So we are on the forefront of that. Some of the issue we've had with this, as we do these neighborhood meetings, as we're in park design, is we've brought this up in the last 5 or 6 designs, and it's really important to everybody, but it never quite makes the list in that neighborhood. Everybody wants it in the park that's just over the hill or around the corner. So, this has been in design and been brought to neighborhood attentions, but we kind of talk about it as not in my neighborhood situation. Everybody wants it, but wants it somewhere else. So we are working with this community task force community group to try to locate those areas. So we just wanted to kind of give a brief discussion where we are on that.
So I guess my question is there a need? Like, are there a lot of citizens that have been advocating for a dog park?
Yes.
Because I know that the Bicentennial Dog Park is a hot mess because everybody just lets their dogs run free everywhere now in the whole park.
Yes.
And I happen to, and they don't clean up. And also, this is neither here nor there, I guess, but my sister-in-law is a prominent dog trainer in the area, and dog parks are the worst for dogs, according to her. So I've never heard of anyone that wants another dog park, but maybe there is that need.
So our level of service need shows that. We've had a lot of, a lot of complaints as of late. Yeah, so and we're as frustrated as you. Our staff doesn't want to be cleaning that up. We've tried to increase enforcement and do what we can do to contain that. That's part of it, is we need to hear that voice and create something for those people for our level of service need. So as Becky mentioned, we've been getting a lot of input on that. So we are working to find the right place, which is tough, right? Everybody, the not in my neighborhood situation. So we're working pretty diligently with that group to try to locate that, the right place.
I think Aaron has a question.
Go ahead.
There are a lot of people who own dogs, and dogs need to be exercised, right? And so what happens is that all the parks during quiet hours, quiet times where there's, kids are at school, you'll see dog owners kind of get together, let their dogs off leash, hoping that that's okay. And then they play, right? Would you ever consider just having a dog park at every park that you have in Provo?
I mean, we consider that, and that's why we take it to the neighborhood meetings and get the public input. And ultimately the neighborhood makes that decision, with their input. So like I was saying, we've considered that. It'll last quite a few, but it seems to always get shot down by the neighborhood, or doesn't, from a funding standpoint, a playground seems to go in, or another feature is more important than the dog park. So yes, we do, but it just comes down to public involvement and what the neighborhoods pick.
I was just alarmed at the last meeting to find out that the city's giving out misdemeanor charges if you're caught, with a group and dogs are running around, and so,
Right.
Yeah.
That's not restricted to the park, so that's citywide ordinance.
Yeah.
So in the last 7 years, I've had 2 people reach out to me for dog parks, and they're not on the west side, but they want dog parks on the west side. So just so you guys are aware, I mean, I've had one from Southeast and I've had one from Grandview, and they're really interested in dog parks, but they want them to be in our neck of the woods. So if we don't want them on the west side, we probably need to express that and say, we're dog owners. We don't take our dogs to the park. I don't think it's appropriate to say we're dog owners. We want to take them to Northeast Provo, but we just don't want them here. We don't have dogs that we want them here for.
Thank you. Any other? Oh,
The local parks like Arian is talking about, just an area that's fenced where the dogs can run. It doesn't have to be an official dog park, but just somewhere so that you don't get a ticket if you want to let your dog run or.
yeah. So we've looked at that. We're trying to find the right place. It's a little more intuitive than that with irrigation moving, and we're taking up green space that is used for other people. We have to look at what's good for a whole, right? It's hard to take green space for a 5 or 10% user base. We have to look at the whole. So we are looking at that as part of these areas, if we can add those in some spots. But, we did a study as far as just the fencing, and we're $60,000, $80,000, $100,000 just a fence. So there's a funding aspect that goes along with that, as well as taking green space from a user, a majority user group. So we're trying to put them where it makes sense, where we're not backing up to neighboring properties, and not taking green space that's being utilized by a large group or a big majority. So we are considering that. We're just trying to make sure we put them in the right location.
They survey that population there. Because I have dogs, I would love to have a space where, because I'm, pretty conscious of keeping them on the leash. It'd be fun, but I don't know, how do you determine if it's wanted or not wanted?
Basically, and I can turn it over to John, basically the neighborhood meetings or the district meetings like this.
And it's also part of our master planning process, where there's a statistically valid survey performed citywide that prioritizes the needs of the community. And dog parks isn't in the top 10 of that needs survey. So it comes down to multiple surveys. So we're here tonight to learn more. Riley mentioned that when we're in planning of a new park or a park renovation, that it is brought to the neighborhood and the committees that are part of that design process. Dog park in this area, we see this could be a good use. So West Park, that was part of that discussion. And you can bet when we're talking about Fort Utah here in a couple months, we're going to bring it up. So this is going to be a mutual decision that's made between our department and the community that we serve. So that's, and another condition of an open space for pets to be let loose is that we've learned not just from our community, but other communities that the reserved space is typically too small. So like Bicentennial, when it was open, it was a grassy, nice area. And within a month, it was all burnt out and dead. And so a new material went in there and it was it too coarse or too fine the first time?
I think it was too coarse originally, and then it got switched to a finer material.
Yeah, so there's been a couple iterations of what a dog park in Provo is at Bicentennial. So we are learning not just from our experience, but from other facilities across the state, how to best address the needs of the community. So, and by bringing this up tonight, it was to let you know it's being explored, it's being actively looked at. And then the other part of that is pets are allowed on leash in these public facilities, the trail system and the parks at this point. It's just the off leash component at this part that's an issue that pet owners need to be aware of.
Okay, we need to move on. So can I ask if people still have questions for parks, if they want to go out into the hallway and talk to John and Riley, but we need to go on to our next items.
Thank you, Rachel. And thanks to the Park and Recs. We need to move on to the next thing on the item which is the development. And so that is for Dudley. They're here for presenting?
Yes.
Yeah. if
Okay, and
You have
while-
some
while-
slides?
Yeah, while he's coming up, just to kind of tell you where this is in the development process. So Dudley and Associates, they have put in their application. So right now they're in the department review process. They have not gone to the planning commission or city council yet. They're in this review and they have submitted their application, and I will let them go ahead and explain their project.
I'm Roger Dudley. I'm the engineer for the developer. The Davila family own this property. It's about 1.5 acres. It faces Geneva Road. There's an existing residence and some outbuildings. They're proposing to the city that this be divided into 3 lots so that they can build 2 additional residences. So we're approaching that. Our first item of business, of course, is a zone change to an R1.8. We're surrounded on all 3 sides by R1.8. And in order to build 2 additional residences, we need the R1.8 zoning. So our purpose tonight is to show that to you. It's pretty straightforward. We have some challenges. There is no sewer in front of this property. There's some immediately south and some immediately north. The largest challenge is going to be putting in a sewer main in Geneva Road, which is a UDOT controlled highway. We've met with UDOT yesterday with their people in discussing access. They have agreed to let us have 2 accesses, not 3. So 2 of the lots will have a shared access, and then the other lot will have its own access. They're trying to space those along Geneva Road, and that's the best we could come up with. I'd be happy to answer any questions. A pretty simple application, and take any questions or any concerns. I must have done a really good job.
Are they they're custom home designs? We like short items like that. Now we get to the fun part. Everybody that's still here. Oh, that's right. Sorry. Dan Ford. Sorry about that, Dan. Sorry about that.
Hey, did you want to do any type of opinion poll in favor or not in favor of that project, Brian? Or we're fine with it, right? That's great. Okay.
They're not even before city council.
Right. Okay, and just so that you know, in the development process, this one is still in the idea phase. No application has been submitted. It's still in the idea phase.
So I'm not Dan, I'm Josh. And we are working with the property owners to create a new subdivision housing development. And we just wanted to kind of bring this up to everybody to show them kind of a basic initial concept that we've been playing with. Obviously, there's a lot we can do with it. This, what you're seeing is about 4 units per acre, 3.7. We've had some concepts where there's kind of the lower density, single family around the edges, and maybe that middle section would bump up to like 5 units per acre. So we could do some more affordable townhomes. So really just looking for anybody's feedback or wishes, but what we're trying to provide here is new housing that's more reasonably priced, which is a real need in the market.
Okay, is this by the state center? I'm so
Yeah.
curious.
So
Can you do it backward?
The stake center's down to the right. This is
like
actually.
the street that Footprinter Park is on, it's like.
1150. Footprinter's just on the other side of the lake, the little pond.
And then junior high.
Okay.
And just to let you know, you
Just
live in
south.
Utah, so the answer to that anywhere is yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's
so
true.
This is the
The
little,
state center. State center's gonna be
this is the little
right.
chapel.
It's south.
And that's the little chapel right there.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
that's a little,
The Bible church.
I get
the
down
Bible
more.
church. Yep, exactly.
Down.
Yeah, the state center is gonna be further down.
It's
Further
right where
down to
you're
the,
at.
right where your head is now.
Keep going
Yeah.
down.
So this is this property that keeps on wanting to develop.
Yeah, that's what I was
Yes.
thinking it was.
This is
It's
north of
not
that other one further.
Yeah, this is north of that property,
Okay.
across from the state center.
So we've done surveys, soil reports, you know, we're gathering data, we're playing with ideas. So real, very preliminary, as she said, it's in the idea phase, but we just hope to provide something that is,
Open space number 1, I don't believe you can have anything, in line with that drainage system.
okay,
You might have a problem with that. You know, it's, you may need to reorient, but that's a huge drainage system
Okay.
underground there. So
right on.
you may have a real big problem with
Okay.
that. Just heads up.
Yeah, no, that's what we're looking for, is any kind of comments or ideas. And really one question that we really have is, are you open to kind of a blending of kind of 3.5 to 4 homes per acre, and then maybe a section of this that's more like 5 homes per acre, which would turn more into townhomes. And I know for me, I've got kids that are entering that stage of needing to buy a house, and we just gotta have more housing that is reasonably priced, which means you gotta go a little bit more dense, but we don't necessarily want to do the entire thing.
Just looking at this looks like, a development that was eventually approved. But just from my observation here, you are going to have a second egress.
Yes, and we're working with the acres,
Just
100%. Yeah, we've got to figure out potentially even right there next to the church.
Just a reminder, I need you to use the mics because everyone on Zoom is hearing silence right now.
Sorry, everybody on Zoom.
The only thing I was suggesting is that you're going to need egress on that, and also the huge drainage right south of that pond.
Okay.
But aside from that, I think that you're going to have something going north out of that, especially since the new junior high going in there.
Okay. Noted. Thank you.
I guess I'm offering my opinion, and I would say that it seems like most of the development that we see happening on the west side is in the direction of townhomes. And I think if you're looking to attract home buyers, I think they're more attracted to even just small lots where there's a corner of a yard they can call them their own. Because if you get townhomes, it just turns into rentals and it just turns into investments. So I would like, if you want affordable housing, I would err on like just pushing the limit a little bit larger so that there is at least some sort of a yard around each one, because you're more likely to get like young families that have a couple young kids that will stay there for a little bit if they have a space to call their own.
I agree with that. And that's something we can look at.
There is one directly to the west of you, a development directly west. It's on 1600 and 1150 South. It's southwest corner. That is all quarter acre or 100 square foot. Sorry, 10,000 square foot or more. So if you maintain that same idea through here, I do know the neighbors just north of you here, those are all 1/3 or half. So all of those, to be congruent with the area, I would agree with what she's saying is try to stay higher on the higher side. I know it's the harder.
Even if we do a townhome concept as a part of it, stretch it out to where it's not, you have your own fenced little backyard. That makes sense. And I know some projects like that. And we want to do a dog park that saves June suckers.
The pond.
Yes, exactly.
That's a big attraction.
That's right. That's right.
And I think too, like townhomes really aren't that much more affordable anymore
That's
than
actually,
some single family homes. And so I wonder if it would be more appealing to do, like smaller lot, single family homes or something that
yeah.
they're
And that
paying
could
that
work
price
if we
anyway.
could squeeze the lots down. I mean, obviously any developer, especially in today's world with land prices, the more density, it tends to make things work. Right now you're looking at increased construction cost. Interest rates are not helping the pro forma on this. And so, if we could squeeze down the lots a little bit and not do town, but we just wanted to put this in front of everybody and then we'll obviously submit a concept, but it sounds like you're reasonably open to the general direction that we're going. So.
So what I'm hearing a lot and what I advocate for a lot is the west side does have a lot of starter homes. And the Title I rate on the west side, especially the southwest side, is very, very, very high. We're talking 60, 70, 80% Title I. And so you get the principals and they're like, we have all these starter homes. We really need something that people can grow into. And that after they get their third kid, they can stay. Or if they have some of the already starter homes that are in the existing neighborhoods, that they can move up and stay on the west side and not have to move away. So that's a big concern with because we don't want the same, it's not that we don't like people at the same income level. It's just that we're staying in the same stack. We're just adding problems on top of problems. What we're trying to do is get something different, a different product where people can stay on the west side, they can stay in Provo and not have to go someplace else. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure.
I just wanted to agree with Becky. We moved from the east side because we're in our starter home and need more space to the west side. And we looked within a 2-mile radius just to stay close to my mom. And there wasn't a lot to choose from. So we felt really fortunate to come upon Beacon Homes where we could build a custom home out here on a larger lot. That was really important to us. And I think that's where you get stability of neighborhoods, is when people are looking for a forever home. So if I was going to say what I would prefer is for large, like single family homes with like at least 0.25 or 1/3 of an acre, I think that's what's going to be good for the west side. And that's where you're going to have people that are going to help bolster this community, is people that want to stay here because it's something that they can stand for the long term, because we're getting a lot of starter homes and a lot of space. So I just wanted to reiterate what Becky was saying.
And to concur with Tiffany and Becky, I just want to invite you as a developer. It's always, farmland always turns over to high density housing. It seems like that's the only thing it does. And so as a developer, I invite you to be creative and try to solve this problem. I know you want the most bang for your buck for what you want to develop your property, high-rise apartments if you could. For
I mean, I think we tend to agree and see with what you guys say. We're locals. We care about the community. We're not necessarily just in here for pure profits. I know sounds disingenuous, but I grew up here. My boy finished his senior year at Provo High. And I think what we've planned and put on the board is pretty close to what you guys are asking for. We're asking if you would be open to a small section of it to go a little bit more dense, but I wouldn't call what we have on this paper high density by any means. I would call it kind of a standard, nice, traditional neighborhood. And in today's world, just with basic economics, I think this would make a great neighborhood where people could stay for a long time.
A couple of things I was thinking. Number one, I think instead of the townhomes, I think the single family homes, narrow with a little yard, I think is a great idea. And with these developments, I know one thing that's irritated a lot of the west side is that they've gotten a lot of cookie cutter homes, just a wash of cookie cutter. Are they going to be more unique and some different diversity going on in the?
Ultimately, what we will do, because we're helping the families that own this ground, we'll kind of push this through the entitlement process, and then it will go out to the market. And likely this will end up with an Arrive, an Ivory, a DR Horton, and so, you know, if one of those builders takes this down, it will kind of end up a little bit depending on the builder. And I agree with you that you get these neighborhoods. There's pros and cons to too consistent, and then it's nice to have some consistency. So, but I would say most of the people we're talking to right now on the back end, in my opinion, are great home builders. I'm personally in the market for a house right now. I live in Orem, right at the mouth of the canyon, going up towards Provo Canyon. And we're looking to downsize because I'm about to be an empty nester. And, you know, I think this is a great option. And I've looked at all of those. Everybody we're talking to, I've shopped. Arrive builds a great house. Ivory builds beautiful homes. DR Horton builds great houses, but they can tend to be a little bit, it's probably not going to end up being a custom home, choose your builder, you know, project. Yeah. Okay. If that's all, I'll keep coming to the right on. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now I have to really kind of turn the time over to Rachel, huh?
Okay, it's time for our elections. Now that just about everyone has left, I don't know if they're all still in the hallway talking to Parks, but just to kind of give a history really quick. So with the new neighborhood district program, you have a board, and the board is made up of former neighborhood chairs and also residents who applied to be on the board. And that process was an application. Their information is put on Open City Hall for public input. And then the city council reviewed and approved those residents to be on the board. And so only board members may run for office. And the office we're running for is chair. And then there's 2 vice chairs and a secretary. And so we're going to have the election for chair and vice chairs first. And we're going to have the board members introduce themselves. Matt Peterson, he's on Zoom. I have you down as being willing to run for either chair or vice chair. Do you want to say a little bit about yourself?
As I recall, I didn't reply to the email, but it was an opt-out. So I probably would decline, but if we are starving for someone to fill those positions, I'll consider it. As you see, I've attended from Zoom almost every time. So I'm not sure I can give enough of my attention to actually take an office. That said, I've been living in Provo for most of my adult life, about 30 years. I built my first home here about 30 years ago. I built a second home that I moved into just about 5 years ago. I still own my previous home and rent that out as well as another home in the neighborhood. So I've been here a long time. I've raised 6 kids here. I'm especially interested in, our natural preservation and recreation opportunities. So I'd say there's a lot of my heart for Provo. It's just trying to carve the time out of my schedule right now in a pretty hectic industry.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you, Matt. So Matt, would you prefer that if we had more than, like, if we had at least 3 people running, that you would not be in the running for chair or vice chair?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, next I have Arian for chair or vice chair. If you want to say a few words.
Right. I have served as vice chair for 6 years in another neighborhood. I will say that the position of secretary is the only position where you have homework after every meeting. You have to type up all the notes. So I'm not running for secretary. I do have an opinion about the new way we've been doing things, the representation of these districts. There have been so many good things that have come out that I have been surprised by. Rachel Breen, she has been a huge asset to this process and this program. Can I just ask by show of hands, how many are here on Zoom or here that are just residents who want to know what's going on? 1, 2 that are not a part of the board. We have 2 out of 6 neighborhoods. Well, Rachel, you're paid to be here. Oh, okay. All right. Okay, we have 4 citizens who are a part of this meeting, and we represent how many neighborhoods? 6 neighborhoods. Okay, so there's always the question when you run to represent the neighborhood or the district, are you here to represent the city's interest, to communicate to the residents, or are you doing this to represent the residents and to communicate the needs of the residents to the city? There's this push and pull that happens all the time. And I think that the way that this has been moving is more and more the city controls the neighborhood process, where it's not the neighborhood, it's not the citizens anymore showing up to their neighborhood and saying, hey, in our neighborhood, wouldn't it be great if we're not asking the question anymore? If you could have your neighborhood be anything you wanted it to be, what would you do? And then you start talking about it and you get excited about the projects that you can do. And wow, there's a matching grant program that the city offers, and $1,000 a year. If every resident knew that and said, well, what would we do with those funds in our neighborhood to improve it? Those discussions are not happening right now. So if I were to serve, that's what I would be a proponent of, is going back to the individual local neighborhoods, getting these neighborhood chairs to have their own neighborhood meetings. Start with the neighbors right next to them. Start with 3 people that show up in your neighborhood, and then you get the word out and you have your Facebook page. Another key thing is text messages. You get your neighbors to sign on to a group texting, and you can even maybe utilize the $1,000 a year, or is it a year, funding to pay for a text service, so that and you promise that you will not inundate them like our emails are inundated. So I know that if I sign up to be a vice chair or whatever, I'm going to have a gazillion emails, and then pretty soon I'm not looking at any of them because it's just too overwhelming. But you promise the residents you will only receive a text message the week of and 2 hours before the neighborhood meeting, your street meeting. And then you send that text message out, and then amazing things start to happen in your neighborhood, because you're talking about things that apply to your area, your little area, and that you have empowerment over. So that's what I'm excited about.
Yep. Okay, next we have Haley Glenn.
Hi, I'm Haley Glenn. I've lived in Provo for about 8 years. I used to live on the east side, actually close to Tiffany, and we moved to the west side about 3 years ago. I've just been interested in this neighborhood program because there's been so much development near our neighborhood. I live in Provo Bay, so right next to the sports park. I'm very interested in parks and getting my neighbors really interested in what's happening around them, because they get mad when something happens and they didn't know about it, which I learned from Curdy, who's here. But I am willing to be a chair or vice chair. It's not near and dear to my heart, so I'm not like trying to promote myself, but that's me.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, Andrew Terry.
I am Andrew. I've lived in Provo for about 2 years now. Before that, I lived in Vineyard, grew up in Orem, work here in Provo. So drive from South Provo to Qualtrics, which is in Riverwoods, through Provo, and all the lovely traffic every day. Yeah, just looking to help make Provo a wonderful place to live, care a lot about the parks, the trails, keeping it safe for my kids to walk to school. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, next we have Brian Taylor, who cannot be reelected as chair because he's our current chair. Are you interested in running for vice chair, Brian? No. So we can cross Brian off. Okay. Sean Hilton, please.
Yeah. Sean Hilton. I moved to Provo just over a year ago. So I've been involved here with the program for pretty much since moving into our neighborhood right next to Footprinter Park. I'm a civil engineer, and so I used to work for Pleasant Grove City as their assistant city engineer. And so understand the development side of things quite well. Anyway, I've been serving as vice chair, but I'm kind of along the same lines as Haley. I'm certainly not petitioning one way or another, but happy to serve and be here. So.
Awesome. Okay. And last we have Brooke Barnes.
So yeah, I'm Brooke Barnes. I've lived here for a long time. I went to high school at Timpview. I'm a T-Bird. And then lived here my whole married life. So almost 22 years after high school, and live over by the steak center. There are many. I don't know the only steak center I know. Anyway, not too far from Sunset View. And we've lived there for 16 years and love it. I just love Provo. I love where I live. I decided last year that I wanted to get involved and actually help and change rather than just complain or be mad about things, but just be part of the solution. So that's why I joined. And I'm with Erin. I think I like the new setup of the 6 weeks where we have meetings so that we have time to go back to our individual neighborhoods and get them more involved in what's going on, so that they can be more interested in hopefully coming to these meetings and sharing their opinion. And I'll try to get things done, I guess. That's what I try to do. So I'm working on our matching grant right now and almost done with that. But yeah, that's me.
Okay, awesome. You should all have ballots. Hopefully you have pens also. If not, we have them at this back table. So running, we have Arian, Haley, Andrew, Sean, and Brooke. Cross off Matt and cross off Brian. You're going to vote for 3. Whoever gets the most votes will be the chair, and whoever gets the second and third most votes will be the vice chairs.
So during the interim, we do need to turn the time over to Brooke to talk about our 2 projects that we're working on. So.
All right. So first of all, I wanted to let you guys know that the goat head removal project is definitely a go. I've been talking with Principal Chilcote. He's excited about it. There's definitely a need. So for those of you, does anyone not know what I'm talking about right now? Or does everyone kind of know what's going on? It's south, yeah. So the new subdivision, I don't know, what's it called? What's your subdivision called, Sean, or do you know? It's like, it's the subdivision just south of the school, southeast of the school. And so, basically they don't have a crosswalk across. A lot of the kids come to Sunset View. That's where they go to school. There's not a crosswalk. Hopefully there will be one day. But right now they have to come down 6 South on the south side of 6 South, down to the 4-way stop to cross at the 4-way stop with the crossing guard in order to get to the school. But that area is also full of goat heads. And so the kids riding their bikes and their scooters, even just walking, they're popping their tires, they're getting their shoes full of goat heads. And so where that is their only safe route to school right now, we thought it would be a great idea to get some service hours going for our matching grant project and get the school involved and get out there and early in the spring, get those all taken out. And then hopefully the city can spray, like once they're gone, the city can spray and that will help keep them back down. And then there'll also be an asphalt path that will go in. I don't know, do you know when the asphalt path is going in? Does anybody know? Becky, Terry? Okay, so before the new school opens, there'll be a little pathway for the kids to go on. So hopefully no, so the matching, yeah, that's the safe route to school. So that's, we don't have to pay for that. But that's just, that project will hopefully get us hours for our matching grant project. So they still have to go all the way down to the 4-way stop. So they go, yeah, down 6 South, they go west down 6 South to the 4-way stop and then cross there to Sunset View. Yes. So I'm really bad at it. But anyway, so that's the plan, is to do that, hopefully make it a better experience for the kids going down there and also to get some matching grant hours. That's on the 20th. What's the other one? Oh, I think so I'm hoping that we can, if I can get everyone on the board to just reach out to their friends and neighbors personally and say, hey, we have this project, can you come? I know we've got some hookups with BYU is going to come out. I've talked with them. The same group that came out and helped with the trash, they're planning on coming to the activities. So yeah. We don't have a time yet. Just because it's so far in the future, I figure it's April 20th. Yeah, so it's the end of April. I know, that's what it's gonna be. So I do need to get a time. So I've been talking with Principal Chilcote and this BYU. So I'm trying to find a good time that, that because he wants to get like his faculty even out to come and help and do that. And so I'm assuming it's going to be like a Saturday morning, depending on the availability of the BYU group that's coming to help as well. But I'll get that nailed down in the next few weeks as to what time, but I would assume like 9 or 10 that we'll do that. So yeah, and get service hours for her. So anyway, that's kind of the plan for that. Yeah.
Okay, so the information I got yesterday, 1100 west between 6 South and 890 South, and 600 west between 1600 west and 1400 west. Sidewalk designs are projected to go out to bid February 2024. Letters have been sent to residents informing them the project sidewalks are contingent on right-of-way concerns. Doesn't say. I do know that it will be concrete sidewalk along 1100 west from 6 South to 890 South, just because that is where they're going to do the new storm drain. So the storm drain goes in, the asphalt sidewalk will go along 6 South. Estimated start date spring 2024, estimated completion fall 2024. That's all I have.
Okay.
From the development to the.
That's the asphalt. So instead of the asphalt, we might get a sidewalk? Oh, no, no. Oh,
And it says
Okay.
contingent upon
right of way issues.
right of way issues.
Okay. Oh, that's good to
But the
know.
real physical sidewalk will be from 6 South to 890 South on 1100 West, because that's where they're on the west side.
The school bonded for that.
No,
Who did?
stormwater. They're putting in the stormwater there. So the stormwater goes in, so does the sidewalk.
Okay.
That has nothing to do with their go aheads though.
Pardon?
It's not, it has nothing to do with their go ahead.
No,
Go ahead.
the go ahead is the 6 South from portion number 2.
The go ahead,
That's asphalt.
16.
Yeah. Yeah. So, right. Oh, so the asphalt may not even for sure go in there. Right of way issues. Okay. So we'll fingers crossed for the asphalt, but either way, we got to take care of the go ahead. So yeah, that's all I really have unless there's anything I forgot or anyone wants to add. Oh, so I have talked, like when we talked to the city last time, someone was here like our last meeting and we talked to them about that that if we could get rid of them, that we could get them to like spray it, like every year to like kill whatever might come back up. So I think really, in fact, we've even talked about, and I should talk with the city like might be able to, depending on the temperature. That's the thing, is weed killer only works above what, like 65 or something. And so if we could get the city to spray before we even go in, then we can just chop off the tops, if that makes sense, because they're already dead. But I don't know, it'll depend on the temperature. If it's a cold April, probably that won't work. But if it's a warmer April, then we could maybe get them dead before. So we either have to pull them out or chop them off. So. Yeah.
Once you pull them out, I would assume like having let's follow up in May and do it again.
That's a really good idea. We could definitely do that. That's a really good idea. I have no idea how many people will actually come and help the first time and how well it will go. So, but yes, that was a really good idea of having a follow-up to just like hopefully get them all gone. So.
Do you have information for us, Rachel?
I do. I do have information for you. Okay, so your new District 3 chair is Brooke Barnes. And vice chairs are Arian Adams and Sean Hilton. Yay. So now the question is, we're going to have the election of secretary, but I'm wondering, I'm sure Matt doesn't want to be secretary because he's always on Zoom. And Brian, I don't know if you had any interest in being secretary, because otherwise it's just going to be hopefully Andrew. I'm assuming, Matt, am I correct there that you don't want to run for secretary? Okay.
That is correct. I definitely don't have time for homework, and I'm really bad at note taking.
Okay, so Brian, are you okay with Andrew being secretary? Well, I mean, Andrew's got his laptop. He looks pretty prepared. I mean,
Chair.
yes. Do you want an election and fight Andrew for? Okay, that was easy. Oh, oops. Perfect. Okay, so new chair Brooke Barnes, if you wanted to open it up for public comment for a couple of minutes before you close the meeting?
No, I'll stay here. Do we have anyone that would like to share anything public comment? Yeah.
I just want to thank all these brave souls that are doing this and thanks for stepping up and thanks for being great advocates for your neighborhood. That's all I have for public comment. So thank you.
All right. Anybody else? Oh, yeah.
Well, I don't know. Do you have a mic? Our meeting is like gone over long, right? But we're wanting to stay and discuss more about how to use our funds. Just checking on that. Okay. So we'll
think
close
that-
this and then
Yeah.
have our after party meeting.
Yes. I think there's still a lot of pizza left, so we're good. Yeah, I think if no one has any other comments, we can go ahead and close the meeting. Is that all I do? I don't even know. Okay. Thanks, everybody.